Hello and welcome back to Rams Talk, the preview show. It's great to be back and previewing the Cambridge United game this weekend with a good friend and Cambridge United fan, Scott McGeorge. Just before I start, I just want to say thank you so much for everyone that voted for us in the Football Content Awards. You may have seen we're finalists, so all your votes have counted, and we're going to be going up to Liverpool for the final, which is very exciting. You will see over the course of the next couple of days, weeks, that you can get involved again in the voting. The next vote is the most important one, so please do vote again if you've already voted. If you haven't, go on our socials and you'll find instructions on how to register your vote. So let's get on with the preview show. Scott, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, congrats on the award. And thanks very much for having me on.
No, it's absolutely fine. Derby fans won't know, but me and you are quite good friends from down back in Cambridge. We're actually coming up together for the game on Saturday, so that'll be an interesting car journey up, maybe car journey back as well, depending on the result. Just don't leave me in Derby, will you, Scott?
No, we'll see how it goes, mate. We'll see how it goes, but I'm sure we can get you home one way or another.
Awesome. Well, want to talk all about the U's tonight and just get your, I guess, thoughts on the fixture coming up. I just want to start by asking you to sum up the season so far from your point of view, Scott.
Season so far has been good from a Cambridge United perspective. We had a lot of change in the summer, a lot of players out of contract, so very much a new look squad. But yeah, it's been a really solid start. I mean, even from the first game, we were sort of quite dominant winners at beating Oxford at home 2-0, and they've gone on to show some really good form since that win. We've put together some really good performances and some really good results. I think we sit 10th. That's a handy position. You know, it is still very much early days, but promising sides for the new look side and squad. Quite exciting, and yeah, we're as a support base, we're very happy with the start we've made, and just looking to build on it and not slip. As last year, we had a good start, and then we sort of completely derailed for about 6 months. So we certainly don't want to make the same mistakes as we did last year. But the signs are promising. The attendances are really, really good. We're packing the Abbey out, and it's a good time to be a Cambridge United supporter at the moment, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. If I'm honest, and we've talked about this off air and probably every week for the last couple of weeks, but I'm really surprised by Cambridge United's start. Sitting in 10th, like you say, level on points with Derby, which, you know, I think if someone had told me that after 8 games we'd be level on points with Cambridge, I'd be wondering where we were in the league after, like you said, you losing those players over the summer. I guess just to touch on that, looking at the players that you lost, Sam Smith, a prolific striker, Harvey Nibbs, who also went to Reading as well. You lost your goalkeeper, Mitov, who had that FA Cup glory up in Newcastle that I'm sure people remember. And also Lloyd Jones as well, who's gone to Charlton, who I really liked and was hoping that Derby were sniffing around. What was the feeling amongst the fan base when you lost those names? Is it a case of, okay, we understand, or was it a case of being upset that you aren't able to retain the services of key players?
Yeah, it was a tricky one. We knew a lot of players were coming to the end of their contracts last season, but every grain of focus and energy from the players and supporters likewise was just on staying up. It was the great escape. And then, come to the end of the season, I think some were offered deals, some weren't. But I think some of the guys, Dimmy had been there, the goalkeeper, for 6 years, wanted a fresh challenge. We thought we had a chance of maybe keeping 1 or 2, but I thought maybe they saw their futures elsewhere and had their heads turned, and probably were already eyeing up moves for this season, this coming season. But yeah, it probably was a little bit of a blow to lose the likes of certainly Smith with his goals. He'd been very good for us. but they had been very average. You got to remember in that 6-month period where we were on a terrible run, to be honest with you. But all was forgiven, and they sort of redeemed themselves, the likes of Nib, Smith, etc., and they all played their part in helping keeping us up. So, yeah, but it was a bit of a fresh page, if you like, for Cambridge, and it probably needed to happen. The squad needed freshening up and a little bit of a change. I think it's been for the better. I don't think we've missed any of them so far with the players we've replaced. We've got the likes of Morrison and Bennett at the back, great experience. Okimbere has stepped up to the plate this season, and he's finding the net. Hadmi's been a useful signing. Likewise, a few others. So yeah, I think certainly from a Cambridge United point of view, it's actually it's been a good thing, and we've recruited very, very well this year. So I'm more than happy with how the squad looks, and I think we look a stronger squad than what we did last season, certainly.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned there, I mean, the experience between those two centre backs, how many league appearances they've got between them, I don't know, but it's definitely in the few hundreds, probably touching the thousands, to be fair, looking at Morrison and Bennett. I just wanted to touch on the Reading game, because I think a few Derby fans might have seen that game on TV. It was a rare occasion where League One got the spotlight. A fantastic game. I thought Cambridge United played fantastically. I wanted to pick out one player, and we've not mentioned him so far, is Liam Bennett, your fullback. I mean, to look at him, he looks more Cambridge University than Cambridge United, doesn't he? Very slight, floppy blonde hair, but really cracking player. Just sum him up for me.
Yeah, terrific player. Just belies his size, his frame. He often gets targeted by the opposition. He did the other day against Port Vale. You know, they seem to sort of target Liam, but quite often they'll realise that it actually backfires, because he's certainly not our weak link, as anyone would have seen on Sky, as you alluded to in the Reading game. I think he was man of the match. He was absolutely dynamite. So yeah, target him at your peril, I would say. He had a difficult afternoon against Port Vale Saturday, but much of the team were quite average for about 60 minutes, and he's a 21-year-old lad. He's well entitled to have a poor game, but yeah, he's a bright prospect. He flies. His energy is just off the scale. He'll fly up and down that right. Links up with James Brophy quite well. And yeah, he's an absolute little gem. He went out on loan to Walsall last season. That did him the power of the good. And then he was thrown back in at the deep end in January when we were short of players and really deeply in the mire. And he obviously played a big part in the staying up process. So yeah, he's a fan's favourite and a cracking lad off the pitch, works really hard, and it certainly shows out on the grass.
Yeah, you're right. It was man of the match. I actually went to that game. We saw each other, didn't we, Scott? I think beforehand. Yeah. And yeah, he was there in front of the Sky cameras, and he didn't seem too phased about it at all. It was just like another day. And for a 21-year-old, I mean, Derby have got their young players, but yeah, I was really, really impressed. And I think he's one that I'll potentially look at and plot the career. I'm sure you'll be hoping you can tie him down and he can stay for years to come. But this is the thing. We've already talked about players that have performed well or average that have then gone on to the likes of Reading, have gone on to the likes of Charlton. So you almost want him to go under the radar a little bit, Scott, don't you?
Yeah, really. He's still learning his trade, and we want him, to produce the goods, whilst he's wearing that amber shirt. So, yeah, I don't think that, he'll be in a hurry to be sort of looking too far ahead. But yeah, we want to keep hold of him as we do, every good player for as long as we can. But ultimately, as a club of our size, sometimes we are, I know Bond's a manager will say, as long as you help us while you're here, and you're better when you leave. From when you first came in the door, you've improved. You're a better person and a better player when you leave, and you've helped us, and that's the only thing we can sort of wish for. But yeah, I think like you say, hopefully we can get Liam tied on a deal, and we see him at the Abbey Stadium, he's still a young lad for certainly another season or two for sure.
Definitely. And a word on there, you just mentioned Mark Bonner. Mark Bonner, who comes from the same village as me. He was born and bred in the same village as me. He's a Cambridge lad. He used to deliver his paper, believe it or not. there's my claim to fame.
Yeah,
there's my claim to fame. But I mean, looking, and I've spoke to people locally that know Mark well. He's played, Colts football and adult football across Cambridge, and his come up is amazing. I mean, he was football in the community, which is pretty much teaching kids on in the evenings to play football just in the community, and he's gone from that to Cambridge United's manager. I mean, it's kind of the stuff of dreams, really. But he's honestly one of the nicest men I've met, and he's a fantastic manager as well. And I think there's all that speculation when the Rotherham job came up, ironically, because obviously Paul Warne had come to Derby. Just sum him up for me, and how happy were you that he decided to stay with the U's?
Yeah, as you said, I know sort of Bonds reasonably well. He's an absolute gentleman and a top guy off the pitch. What he's done and the rise from, like you say, the lesser jobs at the club, he's gone right through the system, and it's just he was right place at the right time. He'd seen a lot of regimes and worked within regimes with different managers, i.e. Richard Money, Colin Calderwood, Sean Derry, Joe Dunn, and then done well in the interim and got the job himself. He's done a superb job. It's almost unheard of that someone at a club would go through them processes and find themselves in the hot seat themselves. So yeah, Mark's a great guy. He's still learning on the job as is Liam Bennett, who we just spoke about. But yeah, he's terrific. He's bright, fresh. His interviews, even opposition fans will comment and say, "What a guy! What a manager you've got there." He doesn't come out with all this sort of bitter nonsense that you sometimes hear. He says it how it is. I understand he's a very, very good man manager. He's very personable and good with the players. I know that he's popular with the players. He's a great guy, and as a supporter, it means so much that he's a Cambridge United fan at heart. You just can't beat that, really. Obviously, it was a bit of a tricky one last season because as I said, we'd started the season really well. Rotherham came in. We thought we'd lost him, to be quite honest. I remember refreshing Twitter all day that day when there was speculation that he was there for the talks, just expecting to see Bonds there holding up a red Rotherham scarf, and it never came as the day went on. So it was quite a tense stage. We didn't want to lose him. He'd got us promoted into League One, the highest position we'd been in a long time. So it was a worrying sort of day. But obviously as the day went on, it became less likely. And then the news that he was staying put. He'd made the decision to stay. So we were over the moon. But after that, as I say, we endured quite a tricky season with an absolutely brilliant ending, and he kept us in the division, and he would have learnt so much from last season. I've no doubt. He's such a bright guy, doing all of his qualifications as he's managing. He'd have learnt tons from that, and the same mistakes that were made last season won't be made going forward. So delighted to have Mark Bonner, and he's just signed a long-term deal. So really chuffed that he's still here with us.
Yeah, it looks like he's here to stay, like you say, after signing that long-term deal. I think he's a great guy. I wish him all the best. I don't wish him the best on Saturday. Obviously, I can't do that, but throughout the season, I think he'll have, like you say, he'll have a lot of fans, and not just Cambridge United fans. I think he comes across so well that he'll have opposition fans and just the general football world wishing him the best. So that's a really nice sum up of Mark Bonner there. We've talked a bit about players, I guess, and maybe focused on those players towards the back of the team in terms of Morrison and the two Bennetts. I'm thinking on Saturday, who's going to cause us the most problems? Who should we watch out for, Scott?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, that, Jamie. I mean, we haven't got anyone that really stands out and you could say he's the star man. At the moment, I would actually say the subs. So whoever's on the bench, I would be wary of them. Because to be quite honest, the last 3 games, certainly, they're fresh in the memory. Wigan away, Reading at home, and Port Vale on Saturday. The subs have changed the game. We've got a good, deep squad. Probably the person that I would have to mention is Fajiri Okenabire. He's had a great start, but he's like Cambridge United's answer to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at the moment. He just can't stop scoring from the bench. So we're kind of torn between should he start because he's having such a great impact when he's coming on about the 60th minute. So it's dividing the fan base at the moment. You know, should Fajiri start? So you would have to say Fajiri, just because he's got that striker's knack back after a lot of trouble with injury. You know, he's had a good, clear pre-season and he's in great shape. And he's got one of them knacks of just finding the right positions in the box and he can finish. So I would say, you know, Fajiri. I like James Brophy. Again, he divides opinion with the fan base, but he's very quick, good with one-on-one up against defenders. He has to do a lot of tracking back, but yeah, he carries the ball well and he can carry a threat when we go forward. So yeah, they're probably 2 I'd probably keep an eye on.
Yeah, you mentioned Brophy there. I think he was probably Cambridge United's best player last year at Pride Park, and I think he was actually playing out of position. If I recall,
Yeah.
I think he was playing left back.
I think he did. Yeah, he's quite versatile down the left, and he's equally quite effective at left back because he's got that real good whip of speed. He can recover and yeah, make them sort of challenges with that whip of speed that he's got. But yeah, anywhere down the left. But if you're being a little bit picky, sometimes his end product or goal returns not what it should be because he's got it in his locker. But yeah, he's a player that running with the ball at speed. He really can get at you, which always helps.
Yeah, for sure. And have you seen this season Cambridge differ between home games and away games in terms of style of play, or do you think there's just that one brand of football that Bonner likes to play?
Yeah, good question. Away form is something we need to improve. Certainly, even looking back from last season, it was pretty dismal. We had a terrible day at Leyton Orient earlier on in the season. We did beat Fleetwood, but it is something we need to look at, the away form, and try and pick some points up on the board. Games like Derby Saturday, it's clear that you'll have an awful lot of the ball. We will have to be compact and organised. And then ultimately, we've got to be good when we get on it, when we do have our times of possession, and know when to keep it, know when to go forward. And we're pretty handy on the counter attack. But I'm sure Paul Warne would have done his homework and he'll know what we're about. But sometimes it's knowing what a team's going to do, but it's stopping them. So, as I said, we've got some quick players, some dynamic players, and I would hope we would just stay in the game really for as long as possible. And again, I think subs, could be important for us if we could just stay live and stay in the game. It's going to be a tough one, but as I say, we've got to keep our shape and try and frustrate Derby and perhaps get the crowd, a little bit impatient. When you go to these big stadiums, that's what you have to do. But there would be a little bit of a difference. The Abbey's a lot tighter. The pitch dimensions are as small as you can make them. So going to Pride Park from the Abbey is big. It all of a sudden seems massive and it's a little bit of a different proposition for us. So we have to set up a little bit different, but just be ultra organised and very good on the ball when we're in possession, I would say.
Yeah, and I think, looking at teams that come to Pride Park, that's what they know. That's how they want to play. They want to play compact. They want to see the fans not getting behind the team and getting impatient, like you say. And then when you get the opportunity, which you will, because we could play bottom of the league and they'll get a couple of chances. But if you can take them chances, then who knows? Derby obviously coming off the back of a good away win last time out, and then a win in the Papa John's before that. So we'll be hoping we can sort our form out and get a win. But I do think it will be a bit tighter than maybe some people would believe, really. Where do you think the weaknesses are that Derby could potentially exploit then, Scott, in terms of how are Derby going to win this game, in your opinion?
There's one good player that stood out when we played Derby last year is Mendes Lang. He was on loan at the Abbey many years ago. He's looked very good when we've seen him play and come up against him. He's very, very direct and, can get a good cross in the box. So he's someone we'll have to be aware of. I like our centre-backs, Michael Morrison and Ryan Bennett. They come with heaps of experience, but they're probably not the quickest. So if you could get in behind us and turn us on in the big spaces on Pride Park, that would be a little bit of an issue. So, I guess that, and again, like say, some people target Bennett because of his size and stature. They'll probably put someone on that's 6 foot plus and hit diagonal aerial balls. That can sometimes happen. Port Vale did have a little bit of joy doing that on Saturday. As I say, it probably wasn't Liam's finest game he's had, but he does normally cope really well with that. So, they're probably, I would say, the weaknesses. And sometimes if we're playing someone like Derby, who's going to have a lot of ball, we can't afford to be wasteful and keep turning possession over when we've got it, because if we do, it comes back quick, the pressure's more, and you just end up penned in and eventually, you'll cave in and the opposition will score. So, I think that's the key when we go away from home, is being really clever and smart on the ball.
Yeah. Well, you went away to Wigan, and I know you went to that game because I saw it on your socials. And I mean, Wigan are probably the best team that I've seen at Pride Park this season. And you only lost there 2-1. I don't know what happened in that game, but just by the score, it would suggest that you probably played in that way. And it wasn't a cricket score by any means. It doesn't really feel like Cambridge United are going to turn up and get rolled over. I know you say you've had a bit of struggle on the road, but it doesn't feel like you've been handed a thrashing. I mean, Derby fans will be hoping that maybe happens this weekend, but it feels like you will play in the right way and keep it kind of tight. I suppose that goes quite nicely into getting your prediction for the game and my prediction as well, Scott. What do you think the score's going to be, and who would be your scorer if you've got one?
Yeah, that's good. Good question again, Jamie. I mean, it's as I say, it's a game we're going to have to just stay live in, even if we do go at a goal down. Don't let 2 or 3 follow, because it could be a long afternoon. Then going to I guess what will be a full Pride Park, and it becomes a daunting place to play football. Then, so it's just we've got to start the game well. We can't be too negative and curl up and sit in, because again, that's just inviting pressure on. So yes, just being brave on the ball, defending well, keeping a good shape, not making any sort of fundamental errors, obviously. But looking forward to it. I think we'll have, I'm hoping we'll get towards 2,000. That always helps in the corner there, roaring the boys on. It's a toughie. You're fully expected to win. You're 1-2 on when I looked earlier on. So it's a game where we're firm underdogs. It's probably an obvious thing to say, but I'd be delighted with a point at Derby. I'd take that and take you home and run home with a point. I'll go for 1 each, and Fajiri coming off the bench, if he starts on the bench and doing what he does best.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer-esque. Hopefully not. It'll be in the last minute. That would be pretty awful for Derby fans. We don't need that kind of drama at Pride Park at the moment. I think it's, like I said earlier, I think it's going to be a bit tighter than everyone would make you believe, given what I've just said about you keeping it tight on the road and not being really kind of hit for 3 or 4 or 5 or anything like that. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory for Derby, and I'm going to go for another 2 James Collins goals. I think he's starting to find his form, and if he starts, which I'm hoping he will, I think he could get another couple of goals like he did at the Abbey last season. So that's my prediction. But
Good
yeah,
player,
Scott,
Collins. Yeah, good player.
he is. Yeah, I think he's come under a little bit of criticism this year. I think actually people have too high standards for him because he was that player that banged in all those goals a few years ago. People seem to think he's still the same player, but he's very hot and cold. He'll put it either in rosette or in the top corner, and at the moment it seems to be going in his favour. So yeah, hopefully that will continue. But yeah, like I said, Scott, we're going to the game together on Saturday, so I'll be taking you around some of the derby joints, and I'll buy you a couple of pints. And on that, I just wanted to say we will be raising a toast this weekend, a little bit of a celebration for Scott's auntie Ali, who ironically was a massive Derby fan. She had the Cambridge and Derby connection just like myself, and I had lots of family dues where I'd speak to Ali about the Rams, and she was so knowledgeable, and I know she had a really great job working at St George's Park as well, Scott. So yeah, we'll definitely have a drink for her, and celebrate Auntie Ali.
Yeah, thanks for them kind words, Jamie. It's short illness for poor Ali there. We, family sort of been rocked and a bit devastated by it. She was, really, really lovely lady. Very well respected in the game, as you alluded to. She was director of the League Managers Association at St George's Park, and she was very, very highly thought of by a lot of the managers, as she was their go-to and their union. So she'll be massively missed there. Richard Bevan put a lovely statement out on the LMA website. There will be a celebration of her life coming up, but appreciate that. She was a lovely, lovely lady, and she'll be missed by all. And it's as you said, it's a poignant fixture. So it will be one. We'll be, as you said, raising a glass to Auntie Ali. So appreciate that, Jamie. Thank you.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for listening. It's been great to have you along, Scott, to give us the insight into the U's this weekend. Like I said at the top of the show, if you could vote for us again in the Content Awards, that would be great. You will see all that information come out on our socials over the course of the next couple of days and weeks ahead of that final ceremony. Scott, just left for me to say to you, thanks so much for coming along, and do I get the front seat on Saturday?
Well, you are quite tall, so I'd already it's only a little Mercedes A-Class, so I've already done the measurements, and you'll probably be in the front, but could be on the boot on the way home. It all depends how we feel and what way it's gone. If we win, you can sit in the front on the way back. How's that?
Sounds good. Well, for that reason, I hope I'm sitting in the back of the boot. Cheers, Scott.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me on, Jamie. Thank you, mate.
No worries.
See you Saturday.